Sleep is not a luxury, it's not an afterthought, it's not something you catch up on when life finally slows down. Sleep is a biological necessity. It is as vital to your performance and mental clarity as food and water. When you begin to understand the mechanisms that govern sleep, and when you learn to take control of them, you don't just sleep better, you begin to reclaim your cognitive edge, you gain emotional resilience. You become more focused, more creative, and more driven when you're awake. The architecture of your day is constructed on the foundation of your night, and if you don't get the foundation right, everything else starts to collapse under its own weight. Let's start by dismantling a common myth that you can cheat sleep. You can't, you can delay it, you can ignore it, but your brain and body will collect that debt, one way or another. Every hour of missed quality sleep impacts the neural circuitry that governs attention, memory, mood, and motivation. These are not vague consequences. They're measurable physical changes. Your brain literally rewires in response to sleep, or lack thereof. So if your goal is to be mentally sharper, emotionally stable, and physically healthy, mastering sleep is not optional. It's required. The circadian rhythm is your body's internal clock, and it runs on a roughly 24-hour cycle. It's hardwired into your biology. Light, especially sunlight, is the most powerful cue that sets this rhythm. Within the first hour of waking, if you expose your eyes to natural sunlight, even on a cloudy day, you send a strong signal to a specific part of your brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, located in the hypothalamus. This signal initiates a cascade of hormonal responses. Cortisol is released in the correct amounts, spiking in the early part of the day to support alertness and energy. Melatonin, the hormone that promotes sleep, is suppressed. And crucially, this morning light exposure starts a timer in your brain. About 14 to 16 hours later, you'll begin to feel sleepy as melatonin rises again. This one habit, getting morning sunlight, anchors your entire sleep-wake cycle. The inverse is also true. Exposing your eyes to bright artificial light late in the evening, especially blue light from screens, sends your circadian rhythm into chaos. It suppresses melatonin when it should be rising. It tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime, and as a result, your body delays the onset of sleep, reduces the quality of sleep you do get, and disrupts the delicate architecture of deep and REM sleep. These stages are critical for memory consolidation, emotional processing, and physical recovery. So when we casually scroll through our phones in bed, what we're really doing is programming our brain to stay alert when it should be preparing for restoration. There's also a profound connection between sleep and learning. When you're awake, your brain is a sponge soaking up information, but it's during sleep, especially REM and slow wave sleep, that the brain wrings out the unnecessary and stores the valuable. It's as if your mind is sorting files overnight, reinforcing important memories, discarding irrelevant details, and clearing out toxic byproducts of neural activity. Without this process, attention declines. Creativity drops, emotional reactivity spikes, the brain gets foggy. So if you're trying to learn a new skill, prepare for an important meeting, or simply stay on top of daily tasks, your ability to sleep well isn't just helpful. It's the thing that makes high performance sustainable. Now let's get specific. One of the most powerful tools for regulating your sleep is what's called temperature control. Your body temperature needs to drop by about 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate sleep. This is why many people struggle to sleep in hot environments. Taking a hot shower or bath 1 to 2 hours before bed paradoxically helps this process. It increases blood flow to the skin and extremities, which facilitates heat loss from your core. That drop in core body temperature creates the perfect internal conditions for falling asleep more easily and staying asleep more deeply. Movement and exercise also influence your sleep dramatically. When you engage in physical activity during the day, especially early in the morning or early afternoon, you increase adenosine levels in the brain. Adenosine is a chemical that builds up the longer you're awake and creates sleep pressure, that feeling of needing to sleep. The more adenosine you accumulate, the deeper and more restful your eventual sleep will be. But if you rely on caffeine too late in the day, you blunt the effects of adenosine. Caffeine is an adenosine antagonist, it blocks the receptors that signal fatigue. That might feel good in the short term, but the consequence is often disrupted sleep and reduced alertness the following day. If you do use caffeine, be strategic. Consume it within the first 90 minutes of waking and taper off by early afternoon. Another underappreciated factor in mastering sleep is timing consistency. The brain loves rhythm. It thrives on predictability, going to bed and waking up at the same time every day. Yes, even on weekends, locks in your circadian pattern. It creates neural and hormonal stability. It teaches your brain when to release the appropriate chemicals to initiate and sustain sleep. Erratic sleep times confuse the system. The result, you wake up feeling groggy, even after a full night's sleep. That's known as sleep inertia, and it's a direct consequence of mistiming your sleep cycles. Regularity, even more than duration, is what transforms sleep from something average into something truly restorative. Let's talk about what happens when you wake up. The transition from sleep to wakefulness is a critical period, and how you handle the first 30 to 60 minutes of your day sets the tone for your mental alertness. As soon as possible after waking, get sunlight in your eyes, move your body, hydrate with water, because you lose fluid while sleeping, and delay caffeine for about 60 to 90 minutes. Why? Because right after waking, your adenosine levels are already dropping. If you consume caffeine immediately, you're only masking residual sleepiness. But if you wait until your body has naturally cleared most of the adenosine, caffeine works more effectively to boost alertness and performance. Alertness isn't just about energy, it's about attention, and attention is a limited resource. Every time you check your phone, respond to a notification, or jump between tasks, you dilute your ability to focus deeply. Sleep, when optimized, restores your attentional capacity. It recharges your prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for decision making, self-control, and focus. If you consistently get poor sleep, that part of your brain becomes less efficient. You become more impulsive, more emotionally reactive, and less capable of sustained attention. So if you want to protect your ability to focus during the day, protect your sleep at night. Some people believe they're just bad sleepers. But the reality is that most people haven't been taught how to sleep. They've never been educated on the biology of it. Sleep is not passive. It's an active, regulated process that can be trained, strengthened, and improved. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need perfection. You need patterns. You need consistent signals that tell your brain it's time to be alert, and later it's time to sleep. If your sleep is disrupted by anxiety, one of the most effective tools is a pre-sleep wind-down routine. This can include non-sleep deep rest practices, such as yoga nidra or certain forms of meditation. These aren't substitutes for sleep. They are tools to quiet the mind, reduce sympathetic nervous system activity, and ease the transition into sleep. They lower heart rate, reduce cortisol, and promote the natural rise in melatonin. Reading a physical book under dim light, listening to calming music, journaling, these are all signals. And over time, your brain learns to associate these signals with rest. Nutrition also plays a role. Eating large meals close to bedtime disrupts sleep, especially if the food is high in sugar or heavily processed. Blood sugar spikes and crashes during the night interfere with the stability of deep sleep stages. Alcohol is another disruptor. While it may help you fall asleep faster, it fragments sleep architecture and suppresses REM sleep. The brain is very active during REM, processing emotions, consolidating memories, solving problems. Skipping this stage doesn't just make you tired, it makes you less capable the next day. One more variable that can be optimized, your sleep environment. Darkness is critical. Even small amounts of light, like from a phone charger or streetlight, can suppress melatonin and reduce sleep quality. Use blackout curtains, remove light-emitting electronics, keep your room cool, somewhere around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Silence is also key, or use white or pink noise to mask disruptive sounds. And if you wake in the middle of the night, resist the urge to turn on bright lights or check your phone. Keep light exposure minimal so your brain doesn't think it's morning. Remember, this is not about being perfect every single night. It's about consistency over time. You're not just optimizing your sleep, you're building a system that supports your brain's capacity to think, feel, create, and perform, a system that lets you be fully awake when it matters most. Because sleep is not just the absence of wakefulness, it is the prerequisite for being fully present, fully alert, and fully alive. Your life is shaped by the quality of your wakefulness, and your wakefulness is shaped by the quality of your sleep. This is one of the most powerful feedback loops in biology, and the most empowering part. You control more of it than you've been led to believe. By understanding the science, by leveraging natural cues, and by building consistent habits, you reclaim your ability to perform at your best, not just occasionally, but reliably. So ask yourself, what are you doing each day to earn a good night's sleep? How are you programming your biology to support your dreams, not just the ones you have while asleep, but the ones you chase while awake? Let me know if you'd like this turned into a video script, broken into slides, or supported by research citations. Sleep, at its core, is an active state of neural recalibration. It's a period during which your brain isn't turning off, it's tuning itself. It's scanning for patterns, pruning redundant synapses, and reinforcing those neural pathways that were most used during the day. What you learn, what you feel, how you behave, all of it is filtered, refined, and embedded more deeply during sleep. Without this recalibration, you aren't just tired, you're neurologically scattered. You're less stable emotionally, less grounded in your thoughts, and more prone to impulsivity. Mastering your sleep isn't just about feeling rested. It's about creating a brain and body that are optimized to meet the demands of life head-on. There is a direct link between sleep and emotional regulation. When you're well rested, the amygdala, a brain region associated with processing threat and emotion, functions in balance with the prefrontal cortex, which governs rational thought and decision-making. But when sleep is deprived or fragmented, that balance tips. The amygdala becomes hyperactive. Your threshold for stress drops. Things that would normally feel manageable become overwhelming. You react instead of respond. Your patience thins, your tolerance shortens, and your sense of control diminishes. The smallest frustration can trigger a disproportionate emotional reaction. That's not weakness, it's biology. Your brain, without sufficient sleep, is operating in a state of neurological imbalance. If you're trying to become more composed, more emotionally intelligent, more resilient, start with sleep. Another often overlooked aspect of sleep is its relationship with immune function. The body uses sleep to reinforce its defense systems. During deep sleep, the production of cytokines, a type of protein that targets infection and inflammation, increases. Natural killer cells, which target viruses and even cancerous cells, operate at higher levels when you're well rested. When sleep is compromised, your immune response becomes blunted. You become more susceptible to illness, recovery slows, and chronic inflammation can take root. Chronic inflammation is at the root of countless diseases, from cardiovascular issues to autoimmune conditions to mood disorders. So when you think about boosting your health, optimizing your sleep isn't just a wellness habit. It's a powerful act of biological defense. Let's return to the impact of light, because it can't be overstated. Human beings evolved in a world governed by the natural light-dark cycle. Our biology is deeply synchronized to this rhythm. The sun's intensity during the day and the absence of light at night were the natural guides for hormonal release and behavioral readiness. But artificial light, especially the type emitted by LED and fluorescent sources, has dramatically altered the internal cues our bodies rely on. Bright light exposure between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. suppresses melatonin and can even disrupt dopamine pathways that influence motivation and mood the next day. It's not just about falling asleep, it's about how well your brain functions when you're awake. When people complain about poor sleep, they often focus only on the night. What supplements to take, what pillow to buy, what time to go to bed. But the truth is, sleep begins in the morning. What you do in the first few hours of the day sends powerful signals to your circadian system. And what you do in the final few hours before bed either supports or undermines the quality of your sleep. Your wakefulness and sleep are linked, each one a preparation for the other. The more alert and active you are during the day, the more sleep pressure builds. The more aligned you are to the natural light-dark cycle, the more robust your hormonal rhythms become. You can't expect to sleep well if your daytime behavior is out of sync with your biology. One of the simplest ways to enhance alertness is through movement. Not high-intensity exercise necessarily, but rhythmic, consistent movement throughout the day. Walking, stretching, mobility work, these all signal to the brain that the body is in an active, wakeful state. This boosts norepinephrine and dopamine, neurochemicals that elevate mood, increase attention, and reinforce learning. Movement during the day promotes sleep at night because it helps you expend energy, regulate body temperature, and increase the accumulation of adenosine. Even brief sessions of movement, like a 5 to 10 minute walk after meals, can have profound effects on your sleep-wake regulation. Mental alertness is also highly tied to nutrition. The food you consume influences not only your physical energy, but your cognitive clarity. Processed foods, high in sugar and low in micronutrients, can spike insulin levels and cause sharp energy crashes, disrupting your focus and increasing your tendency to reach for stimulants late in the day. This begins a cycle of late-day caffeine use, delayed sleep onset, and grogginess the next morning. Foods rich in tryptophan, magnesium, and vitamin B6, such as nuts, seeds, bananas, and leafy greens, support the natural production of melatonin and serotonin. Eating in alignment with your circadian rhythm, meaning larger meals earlier in the day and lighter meals at night, can help stabilize blood sugar, reduce nighttime awakenings, and improve sleep quality. Stress management is another cornerstone of sleep mastery. Chronic psychological stress activates the sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight branch. This is helpful in short bursts, but damaging over time. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, becomes dysregulated with poor sleep and prolonged anxiety, and when cortisol remains high in the evening hours, melatonin remains low. This is why many people lie in bed tired but wired, exhausted physically, but unable to shut off their mind. To counter this, we need to deliberately engage the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest branch. This can be activated through slow, controlled breathing, gratitude practices, mindful journaling, or simply allowing for quiet, non-stimulating time in the evening. These practices aren't just rituals, they are physiological tools. They shift your nervous system into a state of readiness for sleep. Social connection also plays a role. Regular interaction with people you trust and feel safe with increases oxytocin, which can counteract stress hormones and promote a sense of calm. Loneliness, on the other hand, has been shown to disrupt sleep patterns, increase nighttime cortisol levels, and reduce time spent in deep sleep. So even if you're focused on your physical routines, light exposure, nutrition, movement, it's equally important to consider the emotional and relational context of your life. Your sleep is a reflection of your total lived experience, not just your habits, but your thoughts, your emotions, and your environment. And then there's the mental game, the beliefs you hold about sleep itself. If you constantly tell yourself you're a bad sleeper, that you never feel rested, that you'll be groggy no matter what, you're reinforcing a mental model that your brain will try to fulfill. But when you shift your mindset to view sleep as a skill, one that can be trained and improved, you create space for adaptation, you start to notice patterns, you experiment with small changes, you begin to reclaim agency over a process that might have once felt out of control. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and adapt, is alive even in the realm of sleep. The habits you reinforce shape your brain's wiring, and over time, with consistent effort, you can become someone who sleeps deeply and wakes up energized. Let's talk for a moment about naps. Strategic napping can be an excellent tool to recover lost sleep, especially when kept under 90 minutes. Short naps of 20 to 30 minutes can enhance alertness, improve learning, and stabilize mood. But napping too late in the day or too long can interfere with nighttime sleep. It's all about timing. Early afternoon is ideal when the body naturally experiences a dip in energy. And if you're someone who struggles to sleep at night, Limiting or eliminating naps may help consolidate your sleep pressure and improve your nighttime rest. Hydration plays a more subtle, but still important, role. Dehydration, even mild, increases your core body temperature and heart rate, both of which can disrupt deep sleep. It also causes your body to release more stress hormones. Sipping water steadily throughout the day and tapering fluid intake in the final couple of hours before bed helps maintain hydration while minimizing nighttime awakenings for bathroom trips. Another highly effective protocol for alertness is the deliberate use of controlled stress early in the day, what might be called hormetic stress. Cold exposure, intense exercise, or focused breathwork that elevates your heart rate and respiratory rate activates alertness circuits and builds resilience to daily stressors. These activities stimulate epinephrine and norepinephrine, chemicals associated with energy and focus. Doing them in the first half of the day promotes wakefulness and sets up a natural counterbalance. By evening, your nervous system is more ready to drop into a calm, parasympathetic state. You've used your alertness system appropriately, and it's ready to cycle down. There's also value in having a shutdown routine for your brain. Just as you power down your devices or close your computer for the night, your mind benefits from a closing ritual. This might be writing down the unfinished tasks from the day so your brain doesn't keep them active, or creating a short gratitude list to prime a positive emotional state. These behaviors tell your nervous system the day is complete. It's time to release and restore. Even your breath can be a lever for better sleep. Certain patterns of breathing, especially exhale, emphasized breathing, signal your brain to reduce arousal. A simple ratio: inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 6 to 8 seconds. Practicing this for just a few minutes in the evening can shift your physiology into a sleep-prepared state. These aren't complicated interventions. They're accessible, repeatable, and biologically sound. When you wake up after a good night's sleep, your entire system operates differently. You make better decisions, you perceive challenges as manageable, you interact more patiently, you retain information more efficiently. You have access to higher-order thinking. This isn't a coincidence. It's the result of systems operating in synchrony: neural, hormonal, metabolic, emotional. That synchrony is built during the night. It's shaped by your behavior during the day, and it's sustained by your willingness to tune into your biology rather than override it with convenience or habit. Mastering sleep is not about chasing perfection. It's about committing to the process. It's about understanding the levers you can pull: light, food, movement, thought, breath, and using them consistently. Your sleep is a biological rhythm waiting to be tuned. And once it is, everything else begins to align. Let me know if you'd like a condensed version, visual format, or adapted script for YouTube or podcast narration. Sleep is a biological priority, not a luxury, and yet we often treat it like an afterthought. When people find themselves fatigued, distracted, moody, or overwhelmed, the typical reaction is to push through, grab another coffee, scroll for a dopamine hit, try to will their way into focus. But that's like trying to drive a car with the check engine light flashing and thinking a louder radio will fix it. The brain and body require deep, consistent restoration. Sleep is not downtime, it is functional maintenance. During sleep, the brain performs metabolic clearance through the glymphatic system, a network of cerebrospinal fluid channels that flushes out toxic waste like beta amyloid, a compound linked to neurodegeneration. This process is up to 60% more active during sleep than wakefulness. That alone makes sleep a non-negotiable if you're interested in long-term cognitive health and mental clarity. We often confuse being tired with being unmotivated or lazy. But there's a profound difference between laziness and fatigue rooted in sleep debt. Sleep debt accumulates when you get less sleep than your body needs, and it doesn't simply reset after one good night. It takes multiple nights of quality rest to fully recover from even a few days of sleep restriction, and when sleep debt builds, your baseline shifts. What once felt easier, recalling names, solving problems, staying calm, starts to feel like effort. You adapt, but downward, you begin to accept less cognitive sharpness and more emotional volatility as your normal. But it's not normal, it's sleep deprivation in disguise. The goal is not to get by, but to recalibrate upward to restore your full mental bandwidth. The architecture of sleep is also critical. There are different stages: light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep, each performing unique functions. Deep sleep, which occurs mostly in the first half of the night, is where physical restoration happens, muscle repair, immune strengthening, hormonal balancing. REM sleep, which dominates the second half of the night, is where memory integration, creativity, and emotional processing occur. Skipping the early part of the night compromises deep sleep. Staying up too late or waking too early disrupts REM. The quality of your sleep isn't just about the number of hours you're in bed, it's about how well you cycle through these stages. Alcohol, even in moderate amounts, can fragment these stages. So can late night screens, high stress, or erratic sleep timing. If you want to improve your cognitive capacity and emotional intelligence, you need to protect both halves of the night. It's not uncommon to hear people say they function fine on 5 or 6 hours of sleep, but this is a biological misjudgment. Most people chronically underestimate the degree to which their performance is impaired by sleep loss. Studies have shown that people who sleep less than 6 hours per night for just a few nights begin to perform on cognitive tests as poorly as those who've been awake for 24 hours straight. But their self-assessment doesn't match. They think they're doing fine. The brain adapts to sleep deprivation in a way that masks its own dysfunction. That's why it's critical to track not just how you feel, but how you function. Are you forgetting names more often? Are you losing your temper quicker than usual? Are you relying more on stimulants to get through the day? These are red flags. Waking up with energy and clarity is a direct result of the previous night's inputs. One of the most effective strategies for early-day alertness is anchoring your circadian rhythm with consistent wake-up times, even on weekends. The circadian system doesn't operate on willpower, it operates on predictability. When you wake up at the same time each day and get bright light exposure, you synchronize internal clocks across organs, your cortisol rhythm peaks early when it should, your body temperature rises in a healthy curve. Your melatonin in production the next night becomes more robust, but when you sleep in too long on weekends, you create what's known as social jet lag. It's not actual travel, but it mimics the disruption of time zones. You feel groggy not because you slept too much, but because your internal clock has been pushed off track. This can take days to recover from. So if you want to wake up feeling good, start with consistency. Let's also consider the impact of stimulants. Caffeine, while useful in moderate, early-day doses, can be a double-edged sword. It has a half-life of about 5 to 7 hours, which means that even if you drink it in the afternoon, it can still be active in your system at bedtime. It blocks adenosine, the molecule that builds up during wakefulness and creates sleep pressure. By blocking that signal, caffeine artificially keeps you alert, but once it wears off, the accumulated adenosine floods back in, often resulting in a crash. This cycle can lead people to consume caffeine later in the day, which then disrupts sleep, creating even more fatigue the following day. This spiral compounds quickly. A better strategy is to delay your first cup of caffeine until at least 60 to 90 minutes after waking, allowing your natural cortisol peak to occur first. Then taper caffeine intake by early afternoon to allow sleep pressure to build naturally by nightfall. Environmental factors also play a role in both sleep onset and maintenance. Temperature is a key regulator. Your body needs to cool down to initiate and maintain sleep. Ideally, your sleeping environment should be around 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit. A hot room disrupts this thermoregulatory process, making it harder to enter deep sleep. Taking a warm shower 60 to 90 minutes before bed can help. Paradoxically, it cools your core by drawing blood to the skin's surface. Darkness is equally important. Even small amounts of light, from electronics, streetlights, or digital alarm clocks, can suppress melatonin and fragment sleep architecture. Use blackout curtains, cover blue light devices, and eliminate or dim all non-essential sources of light. Darkness isn't just a preference, it's a signal. It tells your body that it's time to downregulate and regenerate. If you're lying in bed unable to sleep, the best thing you can do is get out of bed and change your environment. The brain quickly associates environments with states. If you associate your bed with wakefulness, stress, or overthinking, you reinforce that loop. Instead, get up, go to a dimly lit area, and engage in a calming, non-stimulating activity like reading something neutral or practicing breathwork. Then return to bed only when you feel drowsy. This breaks the association and trains your brain to view the bed as a sleep-only environment. Mind racing at night is a common issue, especially for hyper-forming individuals who stay busy all day and then crash into stillness. That sudden silence becomes a spotlight for unresolved thoughts. One powerful practice is cognitive offloading, writing down what's on your mind before bed. This could be tasks for tomorrow, feelings you haven't processed, or just mental clutter. The act of writing externalizes those thoughts, allowing the brain to release its grip. You don't have to solve everything before bed, but you can set it down knowing you've acknowledged it. Your sense of purpose and direction in life also affects your sleep. Individuals who live with intention, who wake up with a sense of meaning, tend to have better sleep outcomes. Purpose reduces chronic rumination and stress, which can otherwise interfere with sleep onset. If you're constantly questioning your direction or battling uncertainty, that cognitive load can bleed into your nights. Clarifying your priorities, setting clear goals, and practicing gratitude can lower the psychological weight you carry to bed. It doesn't eliminate all stress, but it gives your mind something stable to anchor to. Dreams are another frontier of sleep often overlooked in mainstream discussions. REM sleep is where most dreaming occurs, and dreams serve not just symbolic purposes, but functional ones. They help simulate emotional experiences, explore unresolved fears, and encode new memories. People who wake up and remember vivid dreams have often had longer or higher quality REM periods. And while not everyone remembers their dreams, cultivating an awareness of them, through dream journaling or simply taking a moment each morning to recall, is another way of deepening your relationship with your sleep cycles. Sleep also impacts your ability to delay gratification, make decisions, and resist impulsivity. The prefrontal cortex, the rational, planning part of your brain, is highly sensitive to sleep loss. One night of poor sleep impairs this region, making you more likely to seek short-term rewards, avoid complex decisions, and fall into emotional reactivity. This isn't a character flaw. It's neurochemical. But it also means that mastering sleep improves willpower. It gives you back control over your choices, your habits, your reactions. In a society that rewards hustle, constant output, and staying on, at all times, choosing to protect your sleep might feel countercultural. But that's precisely why it's powerful. Sleep is your baseline. It is the invisible foundation under everything you build. Your focus, your memory, your patience, your creativity, your physical vitality. Without that foundation, anything you attempt to build is shaky, inconsistent, and harder than it needs to be. Sleep is not passive, it is not wasted time. It is the most productive investment you can make in your mind, your body, and your future. Let me know if you'd like the entire text formatted as a downloadable script or adapted into visual slides, podcast narration, or YouTube-style monologue. In closing, mastering your sleep is not just about getting more rest, it's about reclaiming control over your brain, your body, and your life. Every decision you make, every relationship you manage, every task you take on is filtered through the lens of your mental and physical state, and that state is profoundly shaped by how well you sleep. If you want to be more alert, more focused, more emotionally resilient, and more capable of creating a life of meaning, it starts with protecting the hours when you're not awake. Optimize your sleep, and you don't just survive the day, you lead it. You shape it with clarity, with energy, and with presence. Sleep is not the enemy of productivity. It is the foundation of it, and once you treat it as such, everything else begins to align.